only league leaders Burnley having currently picked up more points on home turf than Millwall. Rowett, though, is obviously getting a lot right. After 7 points over the Christmas period, Millwall are sitting in 6th spot in the Championship with a game in hand on all of the teams above them. Could this be the year the Lions finally make it into the Championship playoffs? The reason I say finally is that Millwall have flirted with the playoffs on and off since their return from League One in 2017. In their first season back, Millwall went on a brilliant run of 9 wins in 11 to leave them in 6th spot with just 4 games to play. Vital defeats to promotion rivals Fulham and Middlesbrough, who actually ended up taking their spot in those final 4 games, saw Millwall miss out by just 3 points with a 72-point total. In Season 3, back in the Championship, Neil Harris was replaced by Gary Rowett, and Millwall went straight away onto a good run and were level on points with 6th place again at game 28 this time around. They scored 4 points fewer come what may with 68, but missed out by just 2 points in that behind closed door end of season finale after COVID lockdown number 1. Season 5 last term, it was up to 69 points, representing their 2nd best total, but that only gave Millwall a 9th place finish. It was a 6-point gap up to the playoffs. However, once again, 16th of March, 9 games to play, and Millwall were just 2 points off 6th place and saw Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United surge in ahead of them. So the evidence seems to tell us that Millwall have been in good positions to get themselves into the playoffs in the majority of their seasons since returning to the 2nd tier. But what do they need to do to finally make it in there? The first thing I would say is that Millwall are already doing plenty right. The Lions don't have the biggest match day or commercial income, nor do they pay the most out in wages. Neil Harris's 2018 team that missed out by just 3 points had the 3rd lowest wage bill in the entire division, with only 2 sides paying less, Barnsley and Burton, and they both got relegated. Since that first season up, the Lions have built themselves as more of a championship force, but we all know it's very tricky against the might of those teams receiving parachute payments. The first 2 times Millwall went close on the playoffs, 3 out of the 4 spots were taken by parachute teams, with big spending eventual FFP busters Derby and the brilliantly run Brentford taking the other 2 spots. The disappointing one for Millwall will probably be last season financially, where Huddersfield and Luton played out that 3rd versus 6th place semi-final, and Millwall wouldn't consider themselves miles off of those 2. Of course, it'll be tough for the Lions this season again financially. 2 of the parachute teams will likely, though, have been taken out of the playoff picture, given Sheffield United and Burnley are so far clear at the top. But that does still leave the likes of Norwich, Watford and West Brom, and also Middlesbrough. They also got a big chunk of money from the sale of Jed Spence in the summer, another financial powerhouse. Maybe it'll be those 4 that end up getting in, but knowing the circus that is the Championship, 1 or more could easily balls it up, and Millwall are currently in possession of one of those spots and will not want to let it go. The current run for Millwall is just 2 defeats in 14 games, also with 7 clean sheets in that period. In terms of long-term stability, Gary Rowett being in the job over 3 years makes him second only to Coventry's Mark Robins as the longest serving manager, although Coventry have only been up 2 complete seasons, giving Rowett the longest current championship streak. Ironically, it was Rowett who took the final playoff spot as Derby boss when perhaps the most exciting Millwall team out of this 5-season championship era missed out. And mention of that team really flags up the main criticism of the current Millwall boss, as his sides appear a lot more conservative than Neil Harris's balls to the wall 4-4 F-2 side of Steve Morrison and Lee Gregory up top. Millwall are solid under Rowett, but perhaps a few too many draws over his run as manager has often come up as being a problematic factor. Rowett, though, is obviously getting a lot right for his side to be up there in 6th, past the halfway mark this season. Nobody produces more accurate crosses than Millwall, and the fact that they're second in terms of most big chances missed can certainly be spun as a positive in respects of what happens if they start converting a few more of those opportunities they are indeed making. Those people who try and tell me that the Den being an intimidating place to go is either a cliche or a myth obviously haven't seen the current home and away tables, with only league leaders Burnley having currently picked up more points on home turf than Millwall. Recruitment has, as ever, been decent, with Zian Fleming the obvious standout this season, and it looks like a couple of positions have already been opened up in the attacking ranks in the first week of January. They're presumably, fingers crossed for Millwall fans, going to be filled before the end of the month. Can they do it then? Of course they can, although even the most hardened Lions fan would agree it does need a few planets to align in terms of steering clear of injuries, a net positive January transfer window, and an improvement in that away form. Frustrating as it may seem, we all know how the Championship stacks up financially, so they could also do with a little bit of a favour from at least one of the wealthier bunch turning into a bit of a train wreck in the running. The biggest strengths for Millwall are probably the stability in the boardroom and in the dugout, and with an exceptional home record, then just good enough will probably do on the road if that home record maintains. Then, who knows what might happen if they did get into the playoffs, and having a very good home record and an ability to defend might just come into its own when the Championship switches from league football to tournament football. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the Millwall journey and whether ultimately they can make it into the playoffs either this season or into the future. And the playoffs might just end up being the limit for most Championship teams this season. Why not click up here to find out why I think Burnley and Sheffield United might already have those 2 automatic spots in the bag.